You thought your favorite genre was just entertainment, but you're wrong. It's actually a low-key personality test. Turns out, whether you're into explosions, awkward rom-coms, or crying over Korean dramas at 3 a.m., your favorite genre can actually reveal weirdly accurate stuff about your personality, backed by psychology. So stick around because I'm exposing the 7 major genres, and if you don't see yourself in one of them, you're a liar. Action movie fans are the human equivalent of a white monster can. Jittery, loud, and one emotional trigger away from super sane enlightenment. Action fans are adrenaline junkies, flicking through Netflix like an addict ordering their fix through Uber Eats. People who like this genre are usually males that tend to be younger, around 18 to 24, who vicariously get the love of driving cars, blowing shit up, and blowing shit up while driving a car from movies. As you can imagine, action fans score very highly on sensation-seeking traits like intensity and thrill-seeking, and they're usually not anxious or fearful, but that doesn't mean they're always ready to throw hands. In fact, action fans are actually low in a psychological trait called neuroticism, which, TLDR, they're very emotionally stable under pressure. Essentially, they're the kind of people you want to take the game-winning shot. Unsurprisingly, action fans also tend to be very extroverted. They're the yapper of the group chat that turns your phone into a buzzing vibrator. Their golden retriever energy is infectious, but like most things in life, there's a balancing act. If your favorite genre is action, you're not here for emotions. You want explosions. Research shows that action fans actually tend to score lower on agreeableness in studies done on empathy, as well as often being drawn to dominance and power in interactions. In other words, you want everyone to have a good time, but on your terms, or else. Fun, but not as fun as the next genre. If comedy is your favorite genre, you tend to be like your on-screen protags. You're warm, lighthearted, and you love making the whole room's cheeks red with laughter. Oof. Just like a good fit, comedy is timeless. The data shows that comedy actually has one of the broadest appeals, but there's a catch. As you get older and more sick of everyone's shit, interest in comedy as a genre declines, meaning your 20-somethings like me are more likely to enjoy comedy more than your 80-year-old grandpa, if his comedy is even considered PC anymore. Unlike action bros, comedy fans are very agreeable people, which aligns to the whole theme of making the whole room laugh. They also tend to be optimists over doomers. When the going gets tough, the tough pull out a mic and run material. And just like how a good joke is playful and creative, comedy fans tend to have quite a creative streak in them, turning the ordinary into a silly burn in only ways that they could come up with. The flip side is that comedy fans tend to be a bit of a hot mess. Having such a broad creative mind means you have a lot of thoughts, and sometimes you let those intrusive thoughts win.
I read today about a 10-year-old girl with Down syndrome who was taken from her mother and put in a cage. I read about did you say want to a 10-year-old with Down syndrome being taken from her mother?
Comedy is a little unhinged, just like you. Another thing is that no one will roast a comedy fan like a comedy fan will roast themselves. Comedy fans often use humor as a defense mechanism. They crack a poorly timed joke at the worst time. It's a feature, not a bug. This often leads to them using self-deprecating humor to deflect when people act aggressive towards them. Comedy fans essentially go, you can't cancel my life subscription if I cancel it first. Kinda dramatic, just like the next genre. I remember first being exposed to K-dramas and thinking, wow, that was over the top, but I didn't even realize what the top was. Drama fans get a bit of a bad rep. They're known as crybabies and emotional wrecks as well as serial tissue abusers, but that's actually to their benefit. See, research shows that drama fans are really empathetic, reflective, and outgoing. They score high on agreeableness and extroversion, so you kind of get the best of both comedy and action fans. When you really think about it, it makes sense. Extroverted and agreeable people enjoy human stories and connecting with characters. They're people's people. Instead of asking how does this OP character break things, they ask how do things make the OP character break. They don't watch films for a cheap laugh or to get their fix of dopamine. They watch it for something called eudaimonic gratification. Drama fans watch films not just for laughs or thrills, but for meaning, insight, and catharsis. They often enjoy sympathy and pondering ethical questions. A drama lover might say, this movie really made me think or gave me a new perspective. When it comes to demographics, drama fans are kind of like comedy fans, but in reverse. As you get older and wiser, you start to get sick of other people's shit, but then you realize you actually like other people's shit in a non-kinky way. You just don't want to be the one stepping in it, but watching someone else step in it from afar, preferably with some popcorn, that's pure cinema, baby. Now, while drama fans tend to be empaths, that's a good and a bad thing, because drama fans tend to get very, very into the emotions on screen. It's all fictional, but to them it can feel real. Basically, drama fans are the kind of people that won't talk to their partner for 3 days because they cheated on them in a dream. Cute but excessive, a bit like the next genre, romance. You gave me forever within the number days. ways, and for that I am grateful. A romance fan responding to "What's good, bro?" Romance fans are often seen as the hopeless romantics, someone trying to emulate the romantic gymnastics they see on the big screen. An earthed version of Casanova or Cleopatra, if you will. Studies show that people who love romance movies tend to be extroverted and agreeable, but are not especially open to new experiences, which makes sense considering how formulaic a romance story can be. As a drama fan, you're a creature of habit, and you like when things neatly fit in a cycle. You're not about chaos. You enjoy the order of a romance plot where things work out morally and neatly in the end. Unsurprisingly, you guys are shippers. If someone talks to someone for longer than 3 seconds, you guys pick up the pen and start making fan art. And this is because, as a romance fan, you're really empathetic. Your warm, understanding nature makes you want everyone to achieve their happy ever after ending. Romance also tends to be more popular with older audiences, but that doesn't necessarily mean that cheating culture is the wave in Gen Z. It's more likely due to the younger brain rot generation being skewed more towards high stimulation genres like action. Overall, you have a big heart. You have an optimistic view on relationships, and you plan for everyone to be happy. Too bad most plans blow up in smoke. Because of your creature of comfort nature, when something doesn't go your way or glitches out, you crash out. And your warm, agreeable nature means that you avoid conflict. A wholesome trait that can unfortunately be taken advantage of by the wrong people. But not everyone loves love letters and long walks on the beach. Some of us want lightsabers, time travel, and morally questionable AI. A personal favorite of mine, Sci-Fi. Space boys stand up. Sci-Fi fans are visionaries. They're curious, imaginative, and optimistic. Sci-Fi bros will convince you to dump your life savings into Doge, and then take your last paycheck selling you a marked up dose of copium. For real though, Sci-Fi fans tend to score very highly on openness to experience, which when you think about Sci-Fi makes complete sense. The what if or thing but in the future elements of Sci-Fi are highly imaginative and speculative. In fact, one study found that people with open personalities gravitate most towards fantasy and sci-fi genres, along with horror and thriller, but we'll get there, and it's gonna be good. Similar to action fans, sci-fi fans are also junkies, but they get off in a slightly different way. Although sci-fi doesn't contain as many Michael Bay bombs as action, and thus doesn't have the same adrenaline high, it often contains trippy visuals and mind-bending concepts that scratch your itch for novelty and excitement. You can get really lost in a good sci-fi world, so lost that you forget about the real world. Sci-fi nerds tend to score a little low in extroversion. I know, truly shocking. But interestingly, they're really analytical and have problem-solving mindsets. If you think about what a lot of sci-fi plots are, it's creating a future problem and attempting to solve it with a future solution. But to be honest, a lot of the time, the authors or the creators don't even give you that. Sometimes they just say, this is coming, get fucked, buddy. Sci-fi has a really similar audience to action. The fantasy elements really bring out your inner child's imagination and love for exploring new novel things. Now, even though your boys team sci-fi, it's not all that great. As you probably know, most sci-fi fans are detestable. They think just because they watch something slightly intelligent, they're fit to rule the world to its inevitable dystopia.
People, Professor, think you are the most intelligent human being in the world. Do you agree? And if it's not you, then who is it? Present company accepted, obviously.
To be fair, you have to have a very high IQ to understand Rick and Morty.
Ironically though, sci-fi fans do score highly on openness and intellect, but the extremely high openness can actually lead to fantasy immersion and real-world detachment. So in a funny way, sci-fi guys are really all just a bunch of ricks. A thought as chilling as the next genre, thriller. You may realize at this point that both action fans and sci-fi fans enjoy a good thrill. But what happens when you look at a genre specifically made for just that? If action fans are junkies, then thriller fans are gambling addicts. They're walking into the casino and betting it all on black. They're committing credit card fraud so they can roll for that SSR JPEG. They live for excitement and suspense. But let's get one thing clear. There's a misconception about what thriller is and is not. Thriller is not horror. While they both play off similar elements, their goals are slightly different. A good way to discern the two is this. Thriller is like playing chess with an unstable K-pop stand. You'll be on the edge of your seat because you can't predict the next move and when you might lose. But horror is like if I locked you in a room with that same K-pop stand. The nightmare describes itself. You can have different types of thrillers, like psychological thrillers or crime thrillers, but the theme that unites them all is the unstable being front and center. Thriller fans love excitement and tend to be very adventurous and extroverted. These movies keep people in a constant state of anticipation. Thriller fans love to edge themselves. If you're a thriller fan, you're probably the analytical type. You're the guy who sees an M. Night Shyamalan plot twist from a mile away. You may think all thriller fans tend to be very adventurous and extroverted, extroverted, but it's actually quite an open club. One study found that thriller fans don't really have one dominant big five personality type, but you guys do have a unanimous love of edging. And because of your elite experience, you guys are pretty good under pressure. And that's because an emotional roller coaster is just Tuesday for you. Another thing going for you guys is you tend to have a competitive and strategic mind. You almost look at the media you consume as a game, seeing if you can predict the patterns before they give you the answers. There's also some minor evidence linking thriller to dark triad traits like Machiavellianism, but that doesn't necessarily mean thriller fans are manipulative. More so, people who enjoy power dynamics and emotional puppetry enjoy thrillers more. So instead of being a Kevin Spacey type, you guys are more Diddy. And lastly, your skepticism of everything around you means you're constantly paranoid, as if someone's out to get your back. A scary thought, but not as scary as the bedsheet super soaker genre of horror. Funnily enough, horror is one of the most studied genres in psychology, period. Horror creators essentially ask the question, how can I make a wide population of people so uncomfortable and so uneasy that they shit themselves? And accomplishing such a noble goal requires a good fundamental understanding of what makes humans tick. So how does that translate to horror fans? Well, generally speaking, horror fans tend to be less extroverted and more independent. If you're a horror fan, your hobbies tend to be more solitary, like reading or meditation. Horror fans keep it real. They're unapologetically themselves, and they tend to be non-conformist or the rebel type. Horror fans also score highly on neuroticism and anxiety when tested in experiments, and they also report being more nervous and emotionally volatile. In other words, horror fans are the quiet kid in the back of the class that everyone stays on good terms with, just in case. Interestingly enough, some studies suggest that horror fans are like emotional bodybuilders. One study found that during the COVID wars of 2020, horror fans showed a lower psychological distress response, almost like they were used to the panic and were expecting it to get worse. You guys watch so much unhinged content that the real world becomes boring to you, and as a result, you become better at dealing with the darker side of life. Now, anyone that knows a horror fan in real life will know that these guys love to share their love of the unhinged, and they'll take any opportunity to roast you for being a soft boy, which is very ironic because horror fans tend to score low on tests of empathy. I mean, a horror fan can watch someone have the absolute worst day of their life and then get brutally unalived in the goriest way and laugh at it. So yeah, can't say I'm surprised by that actually. Whether you vibe with explosive action, awkward rom-coms, or existential space trips, one thing's clear. Your go-to genre says a lot more about your personality than you would originally think. But also notice that this isn't necessarily a one-size-fits-all scenario. So many of the best media creations of all time have been movies, shows, or games that merge these multiple genres together. And in a similar way, you probably have traits from across all of these genres. I doubt there's anyone out there that strictly only watches action. And I know that's inviting someone to go in the comment section and say, but I only watch action. But I don't have to listen to that, because if that's true, your brain is probably cooked. Either way, I hope you found this video fun and insightful. Let me know down below what your go-to genre is and whether or not you can relate to some of these traits. I'd also appreciate if you sub and stick around. We're close to 2K, and I promise the content train is just taking off. If you made it to the end, you're the absolute best. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe, stay blessed, and I'll see you beautiful people in another video. Peace.